Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. One of the major fallouts of the Russia-Ukraine war has been the rising energy costs. Europe got hit by roughly $1 trillion from surging energy costs, and the deepest crisis in decades that the region faces is only getting started. It's going to be an expensive winter for Europe. Record high energy prices coupled with soaring inflation are making it really tough for people to afford their energy bills. Post the winter season, the region will have to go for a refill of energy gas reserves, with abysmal supply coming from Russia. In fact, even with more alternatives coming up to import liquefied natural gas online, the market is still expected to remain tight until the year 2026, when more supply from countries like the US and Qatar would be available. Although the governments are trying to shield consumers and companies by absorbing much of the shock and providing aid, experts say the state of emergency could last at least a few years. With interest rates rising and economies inching towards a recession, the support that cushioned the blow for millions of households and businesses is looking increasingly unaffordable. Europe's massive tab for securing energy supplies and cushioning consumers from price hikes has already soared past $700 billion by the end of November. Fiscal capacity for governments are already overstretched. Debt of about half of the European Union member states has exceeded the bloc's limit of 60% of their gross domestic product. Last summer's rush to fill the storage is now coming to rescue Europeans. However, freezing weather is really testing Europe's energy system now. With Germany's network regulator putting out a warning last week that not enough gas is being saved and its consumption level indicators has become critical. With such a supply crunch, businesses and consumers have been asked to reduce usage. Even though EU has been able to curb the gas demand by 50 billion cubic meters, the region is still facing a potential gap of 27 billion cubic meters for 2023. According to International Energy Agency, this is based on the assumption that Russian supplies drop to zero and China's imports of LNG return to 2021 levels. The main source of pipeline gas from Russia to Western Europe was Nord Stream, which was damaged in an attack in September. While the region is still receiving a small amount of Russian supplies through Ukraine, the route remains at risk due to continuous shelling by Moscow. The major concern, however, is that without this gas line, refilling storage will be a challenging task for the region. The European Commission has set the minimum targets for inventories to tackle the shortage. By February the 1st, reservoirs should be at least 45% full to avoid depletion by the end of the heating season. But if the winter is mild, the goal is to leave storage levels at 55% by then. For now, the biggest challenge that Europe faces is to maintain the balance between keeping factories running and homes heated, while not choking off the incentives to invest in renewable power, which is widely seen as the most sustainable way out of this energy squeeze. Now, for more on this, we're being joined by James Jackson, who is a political analyst and energy expert. Thanks for being with us, James. Now, one of the major fallouts, of course, of the Russia-Ukraine war has been these rising energy costs. Take us through just how bad the situation is now.
So I think the situation is bad, but it's not as bad as it could have been. Europe has been very united and strong in its response to the crisis. And until quite recently, we've been blessed by a warm winter. That, of course, is not true anymore. Right now, it's freezing outside. It's -8 in certain parts of Germany and similar temperatures across the continent. So I think, obviously, the war in Ukraine was a massive shock for Germany and Europe's energy security, in particular Germany, because the country was so dependent on Russian oil and gas, not just for domestic heating, which of course a lot of people personally feel and personally complain about, but also industrially. The industrial powerhouse of Europe, Germany, thought they needed Russian gas to power themselves through and to keep the economy ticking. But then, of course, it no longer became feasible to start taking and importing so much Russian gas So they've started to look elsewhere. Number one has to be Qatar, which recently, of course, hosted the World Cup. Now, Qatari gas and liquid natural gas from the United States should be coming in. But I think Europe has done really well at conserving gas. They've dropped consumption by about 35%. And so we're not quite in a crisis situation yet. But of course, what this report is saying is that this isn't just this winter. It could be next winter as well, and potentially even the winter after that. So we're seeing a real complete change in the energy infrastructure of Europe. And of course, those sort of processes are painful.
Governments, of course, trying to shield consumers and companies alike, as you've mentioned, by absorbing much of this shock. And the citizens are already feeling the pinch, and that is, of course, expected to get even more expensive for people to keep the lights on.
Yes, it absolutely is. So the European states, including the UK, have spent $1 trillion on gas price caps, on trying to protect the consumers from this. But how much is that sustainable? That's the question. We've seen energy prices go up and up and up all throughout Europe, and that's even with these price caps. So that price cap, of course, within the EU caused a lot of tension because the way that Germany implemented it domestically was very generous, but then that added to the demand in other European nation states. So there were accusations against Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government of undermining European solidarity by being too generous to the German consumer there. So it's not just economic difficulties, it's also political difficulties within the EU, within the European bloc, and domestically, because despite the large amounts of money being spent, many consumers are still seeing their personal domestic price rises, gas prices going through the roof, in some cases quadrupling or more. So you can feel the pinch, and I think people were really grateful for a warm winter until recently.
All right, James, thank you very much for being with us and breaking down the current crisis for us. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.